Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's flip onto your next window here. So, yeah, your story here and why you do this. You and I chatted for about a half hour, 40 minutes or so, a week ago or so, and you actually did have three big events in your life that kind of showed you how the Mexican health system might be able to help people like us. Tell us about those a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually got ahead of myself a little bit and started talking about my son. So he's the reason we actually started this business. He injured his knee in a soccer game about 5 years ago. He was a very high level soccer player here in Mexico, and unfortunately, in the game, guy came down on his knee and broke his ACL ligament in his knee. That, interesting enough, though, coincided with kind of COVID restrictions being lifted in Canada, and so we were able to come back, and we had a house at that time in Smithers. Still come back to Smithers and check on the house and visit family and friends and all those types of things for the first time in quite a while. And so we didn't deal with his knee right away, other than finding out that he had a torn ACL. And we came back to BC, and by chance we were on Vancouver Island, and he ended up staying at a school on Vancouver Island.
Right.
And finished his high school career, if you want to call it that, out on Vancouver Island. But we did have this pending issue of his torn ACL that had to be dealt with. And so, because we were back in BC, we inquired in BC, and at that time it was a 2 to 3 year wait for him to get his ACL replacement.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, for number one, an athlete and then a young person, that wasn't an option. So my wife phoned his coach, his coach for a soccer team here in Mexico, and inquired if he knew anyone. He said, yeah, absolutely. We have a really good guy in Guadalajara. So my wife, he gave my wife the number. My wife phoned thinking that it would more than likely be the clinic. And surprisingly enough, the doctor actually himself answered the phone.
Right.
And so my wife explained the situation, and he said, well, do you have any imaging? And luckily, we did. The injury happened in Mexico. And so in Mexico, you can get an MRI, same day, if you wish. And so as well as getting it same day, you actually are you're the owner of the results of that MRI. So we had a copy of the MRI on our phone, and so she sent it via WhatsApp to the doctor, and he said, give me 5 minutes, I'll take a look and call you back. And so he did. He called back 5 minutes later and said, yeah, your son has a torn ACL and a meniscus tear, and we need to fix it for sure.
Yeah.
And my wife said, well, when can you do it? And he was like, I can do it next week. And she was like, oh, wow. And that's amazing. And how much would it cost? And so at that time it was about $5,000 US. And so my wife said, okay, that sounds reasonable. And what now? And he said, phone my clinic and schedule the call. And so my wife did phone and scheduled it. And the time from that call to him having his ACL replacement surgery was a week.
Wow.
And so it was just amazing. But then the story is even more amazing for lots of different reasons, which are that this doctor actually isn't just any kind of run-of-the-mill doctor. It turns out he is the doctor. He's the Dr. Rafael Ortega. He's actually the doctor that does all of our orthopedic procedures, or his clinic does all of our orthopedic procedures for clients that come down.
Yeah.
And he's the team doctor for Mexico's national men's and women's soccer team. So
wow.
He's traveling with the national teams all over the world for anything to do with orthopedics. He's also the doctor to basically all of the professional athletes of any kind in Mexico. So there's some big names. So if you're a boxing fan, Canelo Alvarez, for example, is a world famous boxer. He unfortunately recently lost his last bout, but win some, lose some. But he's Canelo's doctor. He's Checo Perez. If you're an F1 fan, F1 racing fan, Checo Perez is a patient. It just goes on and on. We don't have enough time to talk about all his patients. And so that was kind of one of the things that turned on the light bulb for us. It was like, this guy is literally one of the best, if not the best surgeons in Mexico. And he is answering the phone and giving us service within a week. And that kind of just blew us away. And talking with other people kind of, at the time when this was all happening with my son, it was like, this was not an option for people in Canada.
Yeah.
And so that kind of turned on the light bulb for us. and may I start thinking that maybe there was an opportunity to be helping people in Canada get some service that they're not getting in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where everything started. And so that from that day on, we kind of started helping friends of friends and friends of family and family get different things done here in Mexico up until we actually founded the company and kind of brings us to today.
A couple of things you brought up there that drive me nuts in Canada and that I love that I'm hearing about Mexico. Number one, first of all, you go down there, doctor checks you out. Of course, there's going to be some documents that tell you all about your health. Here in Canada, you can pay up to $500 to $1,000 just to have them print off documents for you. Unbelievably insane that we have to pay extra money on top of what we pay insurance-wise just to have something printed off. I went through a battle with my doctor not long ago, and mine wasn't anything major. I just needed something for some insurance documents. They wanted to charge me $750 for it. And when I asked them for what their excuse was for doing something like that, I said, look, I can go buy a case of paper for $150. I can go buy an ink cartridge for $75. I'm like, where's the other $600 you guys are spending here? And she said, well, you're making money off of your insurance claim and we don't get paid to do this. And I said, what do you mean you don't get paid to do this? She said, insurance doesn't pay us to print off documents. And I went, oh my God, this is a business. You guys are trying to milk every dollar you can out of this system. You're not trying to help patients, or you are, but you're using it as just a vehicle to drive more dollars. And then I went into my doctor's office and I asked him, I said, where does that money go anyway? I said, that's off the insurance books. Nobody's seeing that. Where does that go? And he said, well, it's an office fund. So it turns out that money was actually going to the receptionists at the front desk. That was extra bonus pay for them. Wow. So it's just, it's a gross system at the end of the day, and you should be owning your own health information, especially in this day and age. I mean, back in the day, nobody could read it, so we didn't really care. You give me that document, It's a piece of garbage anyway. I don't know what it means. But now, we've got a lot of different avenues that we can hand that off to, even AI in this day and age. And AI can tell you things that most doctors might have missed. So I love that fact right off the top. Number two, talking to the doctor directly. There's an old game we played back when we were in elementary school called Telephone, where we all sat cross-legged, crisscross applesauce, and you started with a message at one end and you whispered it all the way down to the 10th kid down at the other end. Never did that message come through properly. Well, we're doing the exact same thing when it comes to our insurance companies and our doctors too. You've got 17 people you've got to go through. All those people better be perfect, pardon me, in their documentation. And if they're not, you're not going to get the treatment that you need. So being able to speak directly to the doctor right from day one, what an amazing service, and especially a doctor of that caliber. Mexico doesn't mess around when it comes to their big national sports guys, Canelo Alvarez being one of the biggest. Mexico's going to protect that guy through and through because, he's their pride. So, somebody like that being on that guy's list and him still answering the phone, that's pretty unbelievable. Yeah.
We just, another quick example of the service, we recently inquired for a client, who had some questions about an ACL replacement, and we phoned him and he answered, and he was literally at a game with the national team in Florida. So, so who does that? But that said, it is a service here in Mexico that is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Mr. Ortega, Dr. Ortega, he gives an amazing service, and his clinic gives an amazing service, but people should not think that that's a one-off. It's very common here. This is a common service that we receive amongst all of our doctors and clinics here, and not just us. It's Mexican nationals would be very accustomed to this type of service as well. This is not something strange if you are in Mexico.